Recording is on.
Welcome to DXgov's governance discussion for January 20th, 2021. Happy Inauguration Day. To start off with just a kind of like housekeeping things. So the governance refunds round 3 can be claimed. So this is reimbursement for voting, proposal submission, and staking. I believe this one actually is included to 90% reimbursement. And yeah, there's an easy to use guide there to kind of get that. So claim anyone that's voted or proposed or submitted can claim their gas refunds. And then second, I started another round of rep boost here. And so remember, rep boost are a way that we're trying to reward new community contributors to DXDAO, and by giving them and issuing them some rep. So we've been doing, I think this is our 4th month that we've done this so far. There's a couple nominations that I had. Be happy to have other people follow them up on the thread. I do think if you look at the past couple of nominations, there are many that have not claimed their rep. I think we can do our best to try to encourage that. But I think that, as I said in the post, my kind of view is any unclaimed rep, there's no such thing as or I guess a rep boost does not expire. And so hopefully these people can kind of claim it whenever gas prices return, or we think of a more cost-efficient way of issuing rep. And I think that's kind of the crux of the issue now, is it's just not really worth it to go through all of that hassle, even if you get refunded after a month. So I think we should continue doing these like rep boosts, but also thinking of ways that we can issue rep more cheaply and gas efficient.
Yeah. Eventually, I don't think the multi-call does it, but maybe Augusto's version of a multi-call does it, where you can do one proposal and give out rep to like 10 addresses at the same time, assuming you have their addresses and you have their permission. You could theoretically, that would be pushing the rep once again, instead of them claiming the rep, but eventually you'll be able to do it to more than one address at the same time, I think.
Can we, I don't know how it works, but can we do, so the owner of the wallet like signs a message or something, and then it adds to some kind of list where in the end of the month we push one proposal?
Yeah, that's another good idea.
I don't know how technically.
Yeah, the problem at the moment is Alchemy, it doesn't support issuing rep to multiple addresses in one proposal.
Even with the multi-call?
Yeah, I don't think the multi-call adds that ability. Nico, maybe Nico knows, but I don't think so.
I don't think the multi-call like has issuing rep as a whitelisted function, right? I don't even know what function that is, but is that a contract address, the issuing rep contract?
Yeah, so like in theory it has the permission, but I'm not 100% sure. I didn't check that, but I can take it with me and check it and give some feedback later if it's working or not.
I think like from the conversation I had, I nominated some people, and all 3 people, none of them claimed their rep actually. And from what I heard, it's like 3 things. It's too complicated. They need to learn too much, and they don't know where to start. And third thing, obviously, the gas cost. I don't think they even know the gas cost. So it's more of an experience issue versus. I think people are just lazy, and that's not their fault. Alchemy is
So Zet, if it was, instead of getting some rep, if it was getting $7,000,
they would do it 100%.
Okay, so they don't care about the rep. Like confusing is irrelevant. They don't. No one. They don't want a little bit.
No. I mean, I think they care. They care a lot. They're super happy, and like I would say there's a fine line in crypto where people are just like, it's too much effort, and maybe think I'm gonna do later, or I'm like, look at me, I haven't done a single DXD Like I haven't asked for my DXT a single time for my whole
Well, now it's probably expired. You if you don't claim it, you can't get it.
claim what?
What?
It might be too late to ask for it.
Ask for DXT?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once, like, there's a certain.
Who?
No, I don't know.
No, I mean, I think
Probably claim it before that happens, right?
This guy's messing around, but yeah, people should claim their DXT though.
Yeah. No, but I think just to like kind of put a pin on this, we do want to have some proactive measure so that people are like requesting rep, that they're like confirming that. But I think we want to make that as low as possible. So if it is just like signing a message, I think that would kind of take that. But I think we need to work on how we're issuing this rep like more in a more gas efficient way. And I think we're going to run into this problem like a lot, because I mean, we can't scale rep if everyone like that means it would cost like basically $100 to issue rep to an address each time. And that's not like even if the DAO is paying for it, that's not a very like efficient way to scale that. So I think it was something we should be worried about and kind of working on, but I think we can still like try to continue to encourage people to become more involved and kind of do these rep boosts, even if we don't have like the technical capabilities to do it in a gas efficient way.
Do you know who's the perfect candidate to like talk to like for 30 minutes and just ask like, how should we do this? It's the pull-up guy, the guy that like delivers NFTs for events, right? So he has like, I don't know if you guys claimed your if you were watching when ETH 2.0 was released, you got an NFT. He had this process where you just click a link, you connect your wallet, and then you pay for the gas, obviously. But that kind of experience would be like more in line of I think what people expecting it to be versus doing a proposal and all that. Yeah, I didn't use XDAI when I did that. I used their like you had the choice. Do you want to do it on XDAI or you want to do it on mainnet? I did it on mainnet. But either way, that experience is it's much better, I think.
Patricio is actually in the Keybase, so we could ping him in there potentially. Yeah, I think the one kind of difference here, though, is like in theory, I think these rep boosts should be going to people who actually want to govern. It's not just a collectible, right? Like I think, so to me, that like having a little bit of a barrier that is basically equivalent to what it would be like to participate in governance makes total sense. Like,
But what happens if we like maybe the entry is too high for someone that's coming from scratch to Alchemy and they don't even know what Alchemy is, and I think we should give them a softer entry and then like bring them in.
I think this also just relates to how we need to simplify governance in general. I think John's point is super accurate, and it's just a reflection of low participation rates. So obviously Augusto and others are working on improving that, but yeah, in the meantime something would be useful, but I think it's an overall system overhaul issue.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so anyone was in ETH Berlin? So in ETH Berlin, there's actually sort of like a scheme. It's called Reputation from Token. And the goal of the scheme is to actually, give it a list of token holders, and then people can redeem. It's just like a simple transaction. People can redeem reputation from that thing. So that actually can be used with anything. You can give it a JSON list. So like if we add that, we can probably call, and every month there will be like one multi-call that basically adds a new list. And then all the people in that list could redeem the reputation. And it's like, just like you said, I was working with Patricio in ETH Berlin, and he kind of saw that. That's how we were given a reputation. I was like, oh, wow, this is super cool. I'm going to develop it myself. And that's how I made the connection. So that can be done with that.
Isn't that similar to what Nico has done with gas refunds? Like the list, he has a list, the money is in there, and then you just go and do a simple, cheap claim of that token, right?
Yeah, I guess it's a similar thing. The difference here is that it's reputation, and then only the DAO can give the approval to mint reputation. So but yeah, it essentially it's very similar.
Yeah, and like similar to the competition scheme, right? Like the 3 winners, like the DAO has put rep and DAI in some bucket, and then the 3 winners who win that competition, which we've done on XDAI, they go and they have to claim it. Like if they don't claim it, it just sits there. But they just make a simple claim of the rep that they won in the competition, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, something to continue work on for that. But if you have nominations in the meantime, I think it's good to continue this just as a way of recognizing people that are contributing. Wanted to move on to the proposal roundup. I'm actually going to share my screen just for that. And yeah, just going through, I think we have 22 proposals or something right now. So it's kind of a pretty active thing. We could talk about how to make that better, but just there's a bunch of different worker proposals. I think Pulp is going through there. Also my own worker proposal. And then I think Level K and John, and then Dev Violet. So a couple different ones there. There's also the multi-call scheme, which is a plugin. Where is that one? Yeah, that's a plugin that I think it's set to pass in just under 8 days. So we're doing some testing now on XDAI for that. I think John just sent the first multi-call trade on XDAI. And so I think that proposal needs to pass, but hopefully that'll be the first, multi-call trade or by DXgov, even though it's on XDAI. So if that goes ahead, I think the multi-call scheme hopefully can go ahead. And so that is set to pass, I think, in 8 days. I don't know if John or anyone had any thoughts to add on the multi-call scheme, Nico.
Yeah, I just tried it out on XDAI. I think we should probably write a little bit of a guide just to make it a little bit easier. I'm not 100% sure I did it right, so hopefully Nico will double check my proposal and we can boost that today. Hopefully that works. I think it was a proposal to trade 300 XDAI for stake on Gnosis protocol on XDAI, because Gnosis protocol actually is deployed on XDAI. And yeah, so hopefully that will give us some confidence that the mainnet setup will work. But once the multi-call installation is live on mainnet, I think the first step would be to test it with some moderate amounts, not too big. I'm thinking like 20,000 or something, just to make sure it works, and then escalate it from there.
Yeah, and I just noticing it on XDAI. So it is like 2 different proposals, because there's the relayer itself that gets funded from the funding and voting power scheme. And then the multi-call scheme proposal would then trade the funds in the relayer or potentially provide liquidity on Swapper. And that's a security feature so that we don't have funds moving out of the Treasury from the multi-call scheme.
Yep, exactly. So basically the funding has to go through the funding and voting power scheme. And that's, I think that's an important security aspect so that people can have clear focus on where funding would be coming from.
Cool. And the other kind of fun thing going on in governance is we're installing, I guess, 3 new subdomains for the ENS domains. And so Omen, I think, is the first one here that we're doing it. So this would create a separate xdai.omen.eth one, and also one for Sokol, and then I think one for Rinkeby. So this is I think a good, I think this is related to the Cloudflare and ETH.link tie-up, but that's kind of good to see some development on that. And this will be hopefully something we can use for all of our products there. And so when those go through, specifically the XDAI one, that will pave the way for the XDAI launch of Omen, which I think will presumably be back in the regular ENS public resolver scheme. But this proposal that's in there now is to set up these new domains.
Yeah, on that point, we actually thought about how to improve the subdomain stuff. So the way we're going to do it is we're going to packaging up Omen.eth into like mainnet and Rinkaby, and xdai.omen.eth will be packaged into like xdai network and the test network Socal. So we will just use like one subdomain, which is xdai.omen.eth, and then you can switch between test network and xdai, just to make sure, like, to not complicate things. Yeah, so that's on that. Like, I don't expect we will use Socal.omen.eth and Rinkaby.omen.eth. It was just like a precautious move to make sure like there's no delay anymore in any way.
Yeah, and just thinking a little bit in the future, I guess we could even do this like for Mesa in the future if we wanted to have like an IDO specific address. Would that kind of be possible if we wanted to have like whatever IDO.mesa.eth, and that could be like the home for the IDO. So I think subdomains could be really interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's actually like a really huge use case. Sounds like a small thing, but I think projects would love to see that. Yeah.
Are we pretty confident that these things are working? Because I know the subdomains, like the first time a lot of people were going to them, were like just not going anywhere. And then like you refresh a few times and eventually you get to the page. But if that happens for every user, that's a bad experience, right?
Yeah, we're testing. We need to make sure that it will work. And that means we need to test things. So we tested it and it did not work. So we created subdomain, put stuff into it, and then it just didn't work. Like there were Cloudflare issues. And luckily the ENS team is actually really responsive. So reaching out to them is not an issue. And it seems like they have a way where like you can request like a refresh for that certificate specifically for subdomains on the dApp level. So I don't even think we will need the ENS team to fix their shit if there are issues. But it looks like they're preparing this infrastructure in a way that support as less support as possible. So I think it will work.
In somewhat related news, Brave just announced support for IPFS. And so I think that's kind of just a exciting development, maybe not that helpful to our products now, but I think it just kind of shows maybe some capabilities in how browsers can be very helpful. We'll be waiting for when they have native ENS support.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, I don't know why they don't include that into like the what's coming up next. Like I expect that this needs to happen now, right? They're like completely into Ethereum, so why not including ENS support?
Yeah, we'll see. Just moving along, it seems like a lifetime ago now, but a big kind of proposal was submitted. I think it was on Friday night, the Treasury authorization proposal. So I think we talked a lot about Treasury diversification this month and the need to get some stable coins, both for worker payments and also general diversification. And so John, I believe, had submitted this proposal that kind of lays out a plan of action here and like an overall target that we're trying to do, and also the three different ways that we can kind of go about doing this. So John, I don't know if you wanted to kind of set up or add anything to this.
Yeah, I mean, I think you summarized it. Like, this is basically to clear the way for the Treasury to be diversified into some stable coins. Kind of lays out which stable coins, how much, and the ways which are acceptable to do it and how they should be done. I tried to be pretty specific with the language here so that there wasn't any room for confusion or interpretation when people kind of go about these things. I think, basically, I think the main reason for this is that the number one method here, the Gnosis Protocol relayer, like we discussed earlier, is going to take a little bit of time to kind of get up to speed. And with the market kind of where it is and the gains that the Treasury has seen in Ether, it seems sort of, maybe not urgent, but pressing to start this diversification process. So that's why we are kind of adding the second and third methods, which is leveraging the multi-sig that has a bunch of people from rep holders on it already that has been used before. I think we need to do some verification process around that to add extra make sure there's plenty of transparency there. And then this third method, which was credit to Sky for detailing this. I think this is maybe actually a little bit of a boiled down, simplified version of what Sky had proposed, but basically letting people send stablecoins to the Treasury and requesting for reimbursement in Ether at the same time. So, what's cool about that is it doesn't really require trust from the DAO side. And so I guess like one point that I was not super clear on with this is like what was the appropriate incentive for the member balancer? And we ended up settling on 1%. I had checked in with Sky, I think was advocating for 2%. I wasn't so confident that. I was a little bit worried that it might be perceived in the wrong way and like perceived as people trying to take money from the Treasury. But of course the flip side is there needs to be an adequate incentive. So I felt like 1% is a decent number. If you assume that somebody we want to minimize costs and think about targeting long-term Ether holders. If somebody's holding ETH, they're going to have to incur some cost to make the trade, 0.3% on Uniswap. And then they're actually like losing access to that ETH for about a week. But because we're letting people do the proposal at the cost that they made the trade, it's kind of risk-free in that sense. So I don't know, 1% seemed like a good number. Maybe they're taking 0.5% after the costs that they incur, and that is in return for locking it up for a week. It's not really a great comparison, but just to kind of provide some reference, if you get 0.5% like every 8 days or about a week, that's like 25% for the year, and that's kind of like the APY. Again, not a great number, but just to kind of anchor it into some of how people think about this stuff with yield farming and staking and stuff. It just seemed like an adequate, but competitive and low number. And I guess we can always see how it works out. And if it doesn't work, we can change it.
Yeah, the other big benefit is not only that it's trustless, but it's the only way for the DAO to get things it needs immediately, like instantly, right? And like, because no matter if we do these like other multi-call proposals and things, like the fastest it takes is like 7-8 days, right? If ETH spiked to 2,000 and there was like an immediate need to do some exchange or something, like this is an instant method versus like a 1 week long method. So that's another benefit.
Yeah, and there is I think kind of the instant benefit, right? There is currently a proposal for this member balancer, and that's more specifically because we needed to get USDT in the Treasury immediately in order to do like the tenderly payment. And so I think that speaks to that. I think it is, with each of the options, or really, I think the first and the third one, it's just clear where it's going to take some time to figure out exactly whether it's like the % discount we're giving or kind of how much that will be. I think it's hard to say, but I think the middle one actually, to me, is probably the most. There's the highest trust assumptions, but I think as long as we are smart about the verification, I think, of rep addresses, I think it's a very safe way, or not safe, it's a very quick way and clear way to be able to do this. So I think that for all of these, we should be employing all of them in kind of small amounts there.
The other thing I'd kind of like to get a little attention on and maybe some feedback on is the balance, the breakdown of the different stable coins. I think there was a comment in DAO talk from I forget who, maybe Mad Max or I forget, but somebody said, was pointing out that Tether is maybe not the best coin to be holding, kind of citing the case, the U.S. case against them, and some general distrust of Tether. But I was thinking that's why it's got a lower weight, and we can use it in Swapper, and it is heavily traded, so that's useful. But I don't know, maybe it doesn't make sense.
It makes sense to have Tether for if Tether is being used in a specific pool on Swapper that is going to get fees and have benefit from that. But holding extra Tether in DXDAO because for payments and stuff, I agree is not the ideal token to hold. And maybe not even USDC, which can be blacklisted.
Yeah,
also.
Both of these are run by centralized regulated companies.
Do you know of a stable coin that's stable that is not centralized?
Well, DAI, it's not stable, but DAI is kind of the only one.
I mean, DAI is, DAI would be the highest amount, but DAI, of course, is 35-40% backed by USDC.
And then WBTC, which is also centralized. So, yeah, unfortunately, I don't think there are very good decentralized stablecoin options.
Yeah, and I think that's why the approach from DXDAO's perspective is to not be beholden to a single one, because I think actually USDT does have some extraterritoriality where USDC does not. SUSD could be considered the only one that's collateralized on chain, even though they have a very centralized team there. And DAI, I think long term maybe end up being the most decentralized one. But I think the approach at the moment, because there is such a pressing need to have stability in there, I think is to diversify across these. Moving forward, I would like for us to be able to introduce other stable assets once they've demonstrated some track record. So I think specifically thinking about some of the algorithmic stablecoins, and also RAI, which is supposed to be kind of the stable collateral that uses a automation method. So I think all of those will be options. I just think for right now, we don't. This is kind of all we have.
What about non-US dollar coins? Other stable, since Martin probably wants synthetic Swiss francs. We could hold global stable coins, not just dollar-based ones, right?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, I don't actually know how big those are.
We can hold gold also.
Yeah,
I'm not joking. Synthetic.
No, I agree. Yeah, synthetic gold. Yeah, not Digix though.
I mean, there's other synthetics too, right? You could even do stocks and stuff with some of these, right? US, Mirror, and yeah.
Yeah, and I think these are all we're just taking the first step here, I think, right? And the first step is kind of some it's really some short-term security and stability in the form of stablecoins, but I think we need a lot more long-term.
Yeah, I think that the immediate goal here is to secure some of the runway, but more general diversification, I think, needs more attention, and we could add more proposals like this to kind of authorize those types of things too. Once people have, if people have, Bitcoin or something, it could make sense.
And also, the more stable coins we have in Swapper, the more useful is Swapper.
Right. Cool. Any other thoughts on this? As I said, this will go, I think it'll pass in 3 days. And there is currently a proposal in the queue for 100 ETH payout to, I believe, the multi-sig. I think I don't think there's anyone that's voted on that yet. I would kind of prefer for a diversification to go through this kind of authorization process that John laid out once this is passed. So there are no votes in this now, but I don't know if anyone had any thoughts on whether to let this proposal expire or if there's a need to try to pass this now.
I agree. It would be nice to have the authorization passed first. The other thing that I would like to see is some verification of those. I mean, I believe this is the right multi-sig. I have faith that this is in good faith here, this proposal, but I would like to see some of that signature verification of the multi-sig holders in a proposal, just to add extra confirmation. And I tried to outline how that could be done in the authorization proposal. It's a little tricky because Gnosis safes can't sign messages, which is like a bit limiting, and a lot of the rep holding is in Gnosis safe. So I think we're kind of falling what the suggestion there was, and this was kind of discussed in some other threads, but it was to use Keybase, right, and like use people's profiles on Keybase to connect them from this multi-sig to their rep address and verify that this multi-sig is indeed a bunch of like significant rep holders.
And I think Sky may have done this where he had tied his Keybase verification to like a worker proposal. So therefore, like there would be some like link between those. But yeah, I agree that the kind of verification process is important because it's not just about like the people on this call trusting people on this call. It's like rep holders, 450 rep holders being able to like verify this in a completely independent way and feel comfortable with it. And also that we're kind of, we're setting a standard and a precedent for how these things will operate in the future. And I think having the verification process is an important part of that.
Yeah, I think the verification in certain circumstances makes sense, probably in this DXgov dev multi-sig, which already exists, and there was already some verification. Just keep in mind, though, that there are community members that do, like, release products or participate in aspects of DXDAO workings, like reimburse, like there are, you don't necessarily need to verify all rep holders to all like wallet addresses to document everything across the board, like, and that may cause problems too, right?
Well, sometimes like there may be pseudonymous members, right, that want to do things without like doxing themselves, basically. And I think in theory we should be supporting that as much as possible. Yeah, for this one in particular, like this is like one of 3 methods and sort of meant to be a shortcut. So hopefully we can get at least most of those signatures on there. But yeah, I think that's why we want to be pushing for trustless ways to do things and other ways to establish on-chain identity and trust that don't necessarily involve tying things to real-world identity.
Cool. Related to this, I guess, just switching to kind of another important proposal. This is a proposal for the Omen squad to receive additional funding, and this would be in conjunction with the launch of Omen on XDAI. And so this would help fund some initial markets for the launch. I think it is $40,000. $40,000. And this is the second time the Omen squad has been funded. I think the first one was around $15,000. And in the post, I guess in that thread, there's some of the analysis from the results of the initial Omen squad funding. And so, yeah, I think this was put in to the proposal was submitted, I think 2 days ago. And there is kind of some urgency here. So Sky or Geronimo, I don't know if you're have any thoughts on this proposal?
Yeah, I think the Omen squad. So there's the Omen squad is an an under entity of DXDAO that's been, doing some actions and has now reported back. And so there is a little, there's a little trust embedded in like what the Omen squad that operates is doing. But I think like using past performance and based on past actions is what is able to make, which was why like it started as a smaller thing and it's slowly building up, and like its history and its reputation and its performance as an entity has to earn the trust of DXDAO, and like eventually it becomes the actual Omen guild that we're moving towards. But yeah, I think the point of these funds is specifically to be all used on markets for the launch of XDAI Omen markets, potentially a Super Bowl market, and potentially a few other smaller markets split up. Yeah.
Yeah, and also like I see it as a like there are two reasons what needs to be done to make Omen way more successful with the Omen squad. Like I see the Omen squad as just like a representation from the Omen community. So we need to make sure that we are kind of building up people who understand markets, people who understand or like have like gut feelings about which markets could be good. And I think we should do it with like continuous competitions to reward people and to get them on board as like a proper community behind market creation, and like even a scientific approach with like reports about which markets work, which don't work. And the Omen squad is just basically the signer of the community, like to execute on what the community thinks should be done. Of course, most of the stuff at some point needs to be like there are emergency cases where the squad needs to intervene because specific markets, like we don't. I think the only like we should even prevent those markets to happen, which are like where the Omen squad needs to intervene. Like our end goal should be that we just do stuff for the community in a secure manner, and like most importantly in a transparent manner, right? Where like there are a lot of people looking at those markets to make sure that, like, first we make money, and second we're actually providing liquidity to markets, and that's like the second most important part, that we keep Omen liquid, especially on XDAI. Like we're seeing Gnosis is there's a high chance that Gnosis will not continue doing it, so we need to like prepare to make sure that there is a entity who will continue doing it.
Yeah, and as Kai mentioned, the way we're building trust in this kind of pseudonymous entity is basically by letting it ramp up slowly and observing its actions. I actually think there might be a way to design a more permissionless system that could do this kind of thing, like basically leverage Treasury funds in the products with like some management, but where that management is like permissionless and open to the community, and the way that they kind of earn these privileges is through earning rep or past actions themselves, maybe staking some DXD, and like in combination with having some like appropriate constraints on what this like relayer, or like if you think of it as like a liquidity relayer for Omen, what it would be able to do. Like I'm picturing like it only can deposit, like create markets, deposit liquidity, withdraw liquidity. If it's limited to that, and there's like enough dispute resolution time for like the initial proposal of markets, I think it could be kind of fraud resistant to the point where this could almost be a permissionless system. That's just kind of like an idea of where I think we could kind of go with this.
Yeah, I think it's
like we definitely need to get away from a multisig, or and that's, I think, another way we could do it. The fact that like we have XDAI, the DXgov system on XDAI means that presidential election markets, which are active for several months, it's absolutely possible that the DXgov itself is pushing stuff into that market, right? So at some point we might see that the multisig, or hopefully just the community, will prepare those markets. I mean, it just needs to create those, maybe also funded by the DXgov, that we have like guards or like a proper Omen community who's taking care of the markets, and then the DXgov is basically just pushing liquidity into it. And like with Gelato hopefully going to XDAI soon, we might even have something like that. The DXgov is pushing stuff into it and then automatically gets the money back with Gelato. And that's like, I think, the next level of the Omen squad.
Yeah, I like the comparison to Swapper liquidity. Obviously, Swapper and Omen are completely different, but just thinking about how we have the way that DXgov is providing liquidity on Swapper in a trustless way, and how can we mimic those same types of things for the Omen squad, given that it's like a million times more complicated to provide liquidity there, but it does maybe provide like an overall structure for that. So, and I think just in general, I think Omen is a product that's in a great place and needs a lot of attention, and there's a huge opportunity with XDAI here, I think, to attract some more awareness, and so I think that's really important. And then I think it's also important that the Omen squad is figuring out the nitty-gritty of how to provide liquidity on these markets, because this is like truly like uncharted territory. And so that kind of the results from that, and especially being public and transparent, I think can be helpful for anyone to be able to provide liquidity on Omen, and it could increase the number of liquidity providers through that disclosure. Cool. I think that was it for the proposal roundup. We had a lot of interesting proposals. I think there were a couple others that two smaller ones there. But yeah, and then I wanted to move on to the onboarding guide, and this is something that Pulp has been working on for the last couple of weeks. We've talked about on this call. We've kind of had some updates, and I think the goal is now to kind of move towards finalizing it and then moving towards a proposal. So Pulp, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chris. Very quick. So just based on feedback from regarding the worker trial period. Let's see. I think I could just show. So basically, I added a poll to DAO Talk in order to address whether we should just keep pay at 50% during the first 2 weeks of a new worker's time with DXDAO, or should we do more of a pro rata pay structure where in the second, basically through the first 2.5 months, you're going to have some sort of pro rata pay structure. Either that first full month is at 70%, and then the second full month is at 90%, or an option that was brought up today is either just those second 2 months are at 80%. So the polls on DAO Talk, I think we have 7 votes so far. Looks like most people so far. There's 4 votes for the 80% for the following 2 months. So yeah, just go and vote, and I'll leave it open for at least until the end of the week, and we can kind of wrap up that issue. And then the other thing that in the worker guidelines that there's just something quickly to bring up is just worker holidays. Just basic research that I did. I think I saw basically that most nations, that includes China, Southeast Asia, Western nations, they all have somewhere between like 10 to 20 national holidays that they have for different reasons in each given country. So I think 5 might have been a little bit low for us. And so the idea is maybe do something more like 10 Keenan also suggested 12, just so it's really simple. It's just, at least once a month. Someone has a kind of a holiday they can take for whatever religious, national, personal reason that is. And that's pretty much it as far as major changes to the onboarding guide. We can talk about it, or if everyone's comfortable with that, we can just kind of go forward with once the poll's done, I would do an alchemy proposal for ratifying the guide.
Martin had raised a point this morning about like someone not like reading anything about DXDAO onboarding guide before having a call with a team member of DXDAO, which is bad. I guess once this is out there more out front, it'll be easier for people to do. But I agree, like almost like I don't know if you guys have used like the quiz thing on Gitcoin grants. There's like these, I don't know, like we have to like read something about Maker, and then there's an actual like timed quiz. It would be cool to like either add that to Gitcoin and like force people to do it, or make our own quiz, like based on the guidelines and stuff.
Proof of work, another proof of work.
Proof
Right.
of research. Yeah, proof of pre-work, like research.
Right. Luckily, it's all there. Hopefully, once we have it. So Keenan and I are also working on getting. He's doing, everything that's regarding the documentation book. So that's going to be another location for all this information. But yeah, something that at least gets like the nitty gritty points in a quick quiz could be interesting. Yeah.
I think that is an amazing idea. Like it will filter out 99% of scam.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So maybe I can work on something regarding that. Oh, and then one other thing, I just want to make sure something that was discussed at the last meeting, and we're doing it for DXD payments. It was discussed, for the vesting contract in the future, because the bonding curve will be halted, right? Once we figure out the technical aspects of that, we're doing fair market value of DXD going forward. Is that correct?
I thought we were going to be using the dollar value of the last time, like ETH went into the curve.
Okay, so that's right, exactly. So I had both. I had both written down, and I wasn't sure if we were just doing which is higher.
Yeah.
What's the, so we'll do which is higher, right?
Yeah, and the idea being like you kind of have like option. It would be like, yeah.
Got it. Okay, just wanted to confirm.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much options at this point. Like, I think we want to still respect the curve mid price, but like using it in ETH is kind of getting out of hand, right? Like the ETH price going up. So I think we need to like make sure people understand to denominate it in dollars, right? So we just use the highest dollar price that DXD has been sold from the curve.
Perfect.
Some would say what you denominate in is like what money is, and so if you don't have liabilities or payments in a currency, like how can it become money? Anyway.
Cool. So that's it. So yeah, just everyone, I'll put the link here regarding the poll. It'll be open until Friday.
Cool. Great work. And then Sky, I just wanted to like touch briefly on like the DMM governance. I know that this was discussed on the developer call yesterday, and I think like most of the ideas are we need to think of like a technical solution, but I think it's it's a good opportunity for us to kind of maybe be able to expand some of these capabilities and to participate in DMM governance.
Yeah, the few thing. So the one key for any of this, I believe, is you have to have the ability for the delegation of the tokens which the DAO holds to some address. Once the multi-call is in a position to do that, that opens the doors probably for many different governance platforms. And then there's a few different options to to go forward with from there. And the easiest one is probably some way to do a 2-day voting period for either rep holders or for DXD holders or for both. So that could be on Snapshot, that could be on DXDAO with a new shorter voting mechanism, or DXvote app, which Augusto has been building. So something within like a 2 or 3 day time frame, and then all the multi-sig. Then there'd be a multi-sig which has the delegation from the DAO of the actual, like say DMG tokens, and then all the multi-sig would do is execute the voice of the rep/DXD holders. So I think that will work, and it will be. And DMM's excited about that idea. We just need the multi-call to be able to do the delegation. Well, we actually need it whitelisted, so we're going to need to add the delegation or the token delegation contract to the whitelist for the multi-call. So that's another addition that needs to be done.
Cool. Yeah, and I think once like the delegation gets figured out, like I don't think we need to. We can figure out how exactly the decisions are, or the governance decisions are decided. But I think that's we can be flexible with that, because it might be that the people that are studying DMM the most or following that the most in the community should be kind of like leading the way there. But I think the first key is to delegate and start participating in some way. Cool. I wanted just to touch on like one other point in terms of like governance 1.x, and only because we had a couple different things like going on, and it's just as we talk about rep distribution and how that's getting costly. People aren't maybe claiming rep because of gas costs. And I just think broadly, if you look at obviously proposals, there's been a hesitancy to vote because voting is so expensive. And so I guess we have like and really maybe 3 concurrent ways of like working on that. And so one is the alchemy improvements that I think Ezra had posted about, and they were basically like a snapshot like development. And then 2 is Augusto's DXvote DApp, which will provide some, I think, scalability improvements there. And I guess 3 would kind of be XDAI itself, and maybe playing with that a little bit more for like signal proposals, or I think also like reimbursements, right? If we're doing smaller amounts there. So I just wanted to kind of like check in and see if there's anything I missed there, or how people are thinking about like the short-term ability to kind of govern and how we can like try to manage our gas costs there, or if there's any kind of thoughts on the 3 different I guess concurrent tracks we have: the DAO stack snapshot thing, Augusto's DXvote DApp, or XDAI.
Yeah, I see a strong use case with using XDAI. I think the fact that there is nothing going on right now means like no one cares. But in the upcoming weeks, I think XDAI will be more and more important. And I think there are like very small barriers which are kind of huge. Like one example is that we have 8 DXDAOs on XDAI. It sounds like a small thing, but no one wants to check all of them to check what is the right one, and that needs to be fixed. Like we need to make sure that we just share a link or go to a link, and then they are on XDAI and can do things. And after Treasury diversification, I guess the XDAI base will have more money, which means there will be more economy on XDAI, on the XDAI base, and then people get used to making proposals on XDAI and maybe even getting paid on XDAI, because Swapper will be on XDAI, Omen will be on XDAI. Yeah, we are transitioning slowly with a small portion of the funds, a very small portion at the beginning, because XDAI went offline a few weeks ago. But there's like a small very slow process in XDAI direction.
Yeah, my feeling is I agree with Geronimo that XDAI is being underused totally. Part of the issue is that, well, pretty soon we're going to have a DXDAO on Arbitrum too, right? So like, then we have another one, but like we're not even leveraging the XDAI one yet. We should, and we will, as Omen launches and Swapper is on there as well. But if we had like a couple 100,000 XDAI on DXDAO, like, yeah, worker proposals could be done on there. Like, once you start using and voting and submitting proposals on XDAI, you realize, like, if, I don't know, most people here like participating in governance. Once you do it on XDAI and it's cheap, fast, and fun, it's like so much better and more pleasant than doing it on mainnet that, like, I think like, participation could go up drastically. And I've seen the same thing with Moloch DAOs, because there are a bunch of Moloch DAOs on mainnet, and then there are a bunch of Moloch DAOs on XDAI, and it's like so much better on XDAI. It's just more fun, and you get to vote, you get to participate, you get to request money. We just need to, like, we're kind of making the assumption already that DXDAO on XDAI is the voice of DXDAO. Like, we've never ratified it, which we can do on mainnet, I guess. Maybe we should ratify it on XDAI, but like, it is the same rep holders, so it is basically the same voice, but it's not official. We have never made it official, but as we start using it more and more, I think it kind of just becomes more and more official. It doesn't have to be even like ratified. It'll take some time though.
Nico just informed me that I did indeed screw up the multi-call proposal to trade at XDAI. But no big deal, because I only spent like 5 cents on the proposal. So.
Yeah, but I mean, I think this is the point. Like, this is kind of the point, is that we're like using XDAI now because we need it, and we're like figuring things out, and we're like, people will be voting. I mean, I've been going there more just because we've been talking about the multi-call scheme. I know that Omen, I think there's a curation batch there. So yeah, I mean, it takes a while to kind of like build legitimacy and build like processes, but I agree that like XDAI is an underutilized resource, but I think that we are like slowly getting there and formulating that. I think both with Omen, the multi-call scheme being tested on that, and then I also think like the Treasury diversification will help in that this way. So yeah, I think we should be on the lookout for that going forward.
When there was only ever one proposal for about 10,000. I guess it was $10,000 of ETH was sent to the DXDAO dev multisig, and then the multisig used the bridge to send it across directly into the XDAI DAO. It would be nice to get some more money into DXDAO, like maybe 100,000 or something. Like, just the more money that's there, the more it can be used, the more people can do proposals there, the more people can do bounties. It probably needs a little more money. And people just would pay more attention if it has more money too.
Yeah, I think that is a great idea. Yeah, I think the reason why we're kind of forced to use this very expensive, stupid mainnet is because the money is there, right? And if we are moving the money to XDAI, of course, not a lot, like not 500,000, but at least like 200, I don't know, 100K is totally fine. Then workers should make proposal on XDAI, and then we like, everyone needs to learn how to use XDAI.
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy. Like, and we can make more guides about it. It's more fun for sure. And right now there is a risk that there's only like a handful of people that are regularly looking at XDAI. Someone could put in a fake proposal, or I mean a real proposal, and drain the money from the $9,000 from DXDAO, and like, it might not be caught because not many people are looking at it. It probably wouldn't be. It probably would be caught, but if there's $100,000 or $200,000 there, there's less of a chance that someone could attack that DAO actually.
I think that's. Well, I think this is all a good idea if that's the direction we want to go. I'm a little hesitant about doing this just super organically because there is a communication issue that we need to address with, you know, not just new people, but growing the community. And we need to, you know, eventually, you know, be able to say, this is what we're using and everybody go here. And while we can have like a preparation phase, I think it could be helpful to really like plan out how we're doing this and, you know, make it somewhat of a real transition because it just causes more confusion. You know, just as an example, like doing the documentation book with Keenan, we have so many different avenues that we're trying, which is good. That's, you know, we need to try new things and be innovative and, you know, see what works and doesn't work and be flexible. But at the same time, in order to give, you know, real validity to something, we need to all, you know, decide as a group, like, we're going to do this.
I'm definitely in favor of like some kind of authorization or like, designation proposal from mainnet. Because until like the actual DAO says it's like a sub DAO or whatever based on next day, like it's not